This happened just a few months ago. I'm 32, and I thought I needed a break from the city. I wasn't a professional photographer, but I loved taking photos, and I figured the Appalachian woods would be a great way to capture nature. The cabin I rented had been empty for years. I thought it would be peaceful. I've never stopped thinking about what happened that I set up my gear and started wandering through the trees. It was quiet. Just me and the woods. That first night, I tried to relax, but something felt off. Around midnight, I heard rustling outside. I thought it was probably just an animal. Maybe a deer. But my curiosity got the better of me. I grabbed my flashlight and opened the door. I stepped outside. The air was cold, and there was only silence. My heart started to race. I scanned the area but didn't see anything. I went back inside, feeling uneasy but tried to brush it off. Over the next few days, things began to get strange. I woke up to find footprints around my cabin in the dirt. They were much too big to belong to any animal I knew. I thought maybe someone else was hiking nearby, but there weren't any trails close by. My heart raced every time I stepped outside. I felt like I was being watched, but I couldn't see anyone or anything. One afternoon, I was taking pictures when I noticed a flash of movement in my peripheral vision. I turned quickly and just caught a glimpse of something darting between the trees. It moved too fast for me to get a good look. Was it a squirrel? Or had my mind just played tricks on me? I tried to rationalize each occurrence, but I was feeling more and more uncertain. My stomach twisted with anxiety. On my last night, I sat on the cabin's porch, looking out at the shadowy woods. The silence was thick, making me shiver. I heard the rustling again, this time closer. My breath caught in my throat. I stood up, gripping my flashlight. I called out, but my voice felt small. Hello? No response. I felt cold and like I should run inside, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Then I saw a figure standing between the trees, outlined against the moonlight. It looked like a person. I squinted, trying to see who it was. I asked if they needed help, but they didn't move. My heart was pounding. I stepped forward. Maybe I imagined it, or maybe I didn't. That I took a step closer. Then the figure vanished. I turned around, feeling a chill down my spine. Nobody was there. I ran back inside and locked the door. My hands shook as I packed my camera. I couldn't take it anymore. As morning arrived, I left the woods behind, not fully understanding what I experienced. Were those encounters my imagination? Or was there really something out there that weekend? I guess I'll never know. It took a few weeks before I could shake the feeling of dread from my cabin stay. I tried to go back to my normal routine, but my mind kept replaying those moments in the dark. I wondered if I'd ever truly be able to put it behind me. Then one evening, I decided to go through my photos from the trip. I thought it might help me make sense of everything. I had taken dozens of pictures. Most of them were of the beautiful landscapes, but I scrolled through the images with a growing sense of unease. I came across the shot I had taken by the creek where I thought I'd seen the movement. When I zoomed in, I noticed something unusual. In the corner of the frame, just barely visible, was a dark figure that looked like it was partially hidden behind a tree. My heart raced. I hadn't noticed it when I took the shot. I leaned closer to the screen, squinting. The figure didn't look like a person anymore. It was too distorted, too far back in the shadows to make out any features. I felt a shiver run down my spine. Was this what I had seen that night? Unable to shake off the image, I decided to visit the local library for more information on that area. I thought maybe the woods held some history I wasn't aware of. I didn't know what I expected to find, but curiosity got the better of me. There had to be some reason behind those strange occurrences. The librarian was friendly enough. I explained my interest in the history of the Appalachian woods. She directed me to some old newspapers and local folklore books. I spent the afternoon sifting through articles about lost hikers, strange noises, and sightings of eerie figures in the woods. The accounts felt distant, like legends that only existed in stories. As I flipped through one old book, I came across a passage that made my stomach twist again. It talked about a group of people who disappeared while camping in the surrounding area years ago. They were never found, and the woods had become known as a place where the lost roam. It felt like a creepy omen. Just as I was about to call it a day, my hand brushed against a folder labeled Local Legends. Inside were illustrations and sketches of various creatures said to inhabit the woods. One in particular stood out. It looked eerily similar to the distorted figure in my photo. I took a quick picture of it with my phone, feeling a chill as I did. I needed to know more. I could hear my heart drumming in my ears with every turn of the page, a mix of fear and fascination. But as I read through the tales, I felt the air around me grow heavier, more suffocating. Then I heard a soft rustling behind me. I turned but saw nothing. Just the shadows lengthening as the sun began to set. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone anymore. The librarian had alluded to a few others who had similar encounters in the woods, but she hadn't gone into detail. I suddenly wanted to hear more. I had to know if others had experienced what I did. I left the library with a growing compulsion to return to the woods. My feet moved almost on their own, leading me back to the cabin, where it all began. I had to find answers. I had to confront whatever it was that lingered between the trees. That night, as I arrived at the cabin, I felt something in the air shift. The wind howled, and the woods felt too alive. I stepped inside, my heart pounding once again. As I turned to lock the door, I heard a faint whisper coming from outside. My breath caught in my throat. Someone was out there. But why? I hesitated, my mind racing with questions. Then I heard it again. Someone was definitely in the woods. And this time, they were calling my name. I stood frozen at the door. The whisper was like an icy breeze against my skin, sending chills through me. Each time my name floated through the air, it seemed to curl around me, pulling me closer to the darkness outside. I never should have come back here. I took a deep breath and stepped away from the door, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. The rational part of me warned it could be a trick of the wind. Someone had to be out there, though. Could it be another curious hiker, or something more sinister? The thought alone paralyzed me. Then I made my way to the dim light of the kitchen. I grabbed a flashlight, its beam flickering to life, and carefully opened the door, stepping out into the night. The wind whistled through the trees, an unsettling melody that only added to my fear. My name echoed again, just louder now, but still indistinct. It beckoned me, and for a moment, I felt an urge to respond. "Hello?" I called into the darkness. The whisper stopped. My heart thundered in my ears. Was anyone there? I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Shadows danced around me, the moonlight filtering through the branches overhead. I scanned the area, looking for any sign of movement. Just when I thought maybe I had imagined it all, I heard footsteps, soft, deliberate steps crunching on the leaves somewhere behind me. I turned, shining the light in that direction, but there was nothing. Just the dark trees whispering in the night. I felt a knot forming in my stomach as the hidden figure communicated my name again, now with urgency, as if it knew I was there. That's when I saw it. My flashlight caught a glimpse of something moving further up the trail, just within the tree line. A flash of darkness. It wasn't human. My pulse raced faster than my thoughts. This was what I had seen before, the figure lurking on the edges of my photo. It felt just beyond my grasp, taunting me, drawing me closer. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice breaking slightly. The air grew colder, wrapping around me like a vice grip. I took a step forward, half expecting it to retreat, but it remained still. The silhouette shifted and then disappeared deeper into the woods, like it was leading me somewhere. I hesitated. Should I follow it? My instinct screamed to stay the hell away, but curiosity was a stronger force. What if this was the only chance I'd get to uncover what I had experienced? I followed the path, each step feeling heavier than the last. The whispers faded, replaced by another sound, a faint echo of laughter. It sent shivers down my spine, a cacophony of joy dripping in irony against the ominous backdrop of the woods. Suddenly, the flashlight blinked, its battery struggling. The beam flickered before going out completely, plunging me into darkness. Panic clawed at my throat. I was surrounded by trees, shadows, and the unknown. Then I heard something else. A voice, low and hushed, close enough that I could almost decipher what it was saying. I couldn't breathe. The only thing I could do was listen as the darkness enveloped me. I could almost make out the words, but that was the moment everything changed. Suddenly, something rushed past me, and my heart sank. Fear took over, and without thinking, I turned and ran back down the path, desperately trying to break free of whatever haunted those woods. I sprinted down the path, branches snagging at my clothes, and my breath came in ragged gasps. The sound of my own footsteps echoed back, and I could almost hear the unseen presence closing in behind me. I couldn't shake the feeling that it was chasing me, relentless and unforgiving. Panic surged through my veins. As I reached a fork in the path, I hesitated. Which way led back to my cabin? The left seemed familiar, but the darkness made it impossible to trust my instincts. The laughter I had heard before returned, mocking me from who knows where, and I felt a small surge of defiance. I couldn't let fear dictate my actions, that I chose the left path, pushing forward. The trees loomed like black sentinels, blocking out the moonlight. Just when I thought I was alone, the whispers returned, whispering my name like an old friend. My heart raced even faster. Was it inviting me back? Or trying to lure me deeper into the forest? Suddenly, I spotted an old wooden sign jutting from the ground, a warning, directing hikers away from a dangerous area. My blood ran cold. I had no idea how close I was to it. Should I turn back? My gut told me that whatever was out here was not friendly. I glanced back the way I came, all too aware of the stillness behind me. The laughter receded, leaving an uncomfortable silence that I turned my attention back to the path ahead, but the darkness felt thicker now, almost tangible. And then, without warning, the whispers crescendoed. It was a chorus now, overlapping voices, faint but clear enough that I could feel their weight. Come play, they seemed to beckon. Then out of the silence, I heard a much louder sound, crashing twigs and rustling leaves, coming closer. I was no longer just running from the darkness. Something was out there, moving with purpose. I felt a morbid curiosity pulling me to stay, to discover what it was, but another instinct pushed me to flee. That I took off again, urgency propelling me faster than before. My feet pounded the earth, and I prayed I'd recognize something familiar. The voice echoed again, and it felt different this time, as if whatever was behind me was speaking directly in my ear. Stay. No. I couldn't stay. I rounded a bend and suddenly, the trees opened up. Relief flooded me as I burst into a small clearing, moonlight illuminating the space. But that relief quickly twisted into dread when I saw what was in the center. A circle of old stones lay arranged, ancient symbols carved into them, glowing faintly. The ground was disturbed like someone had been digging, and a chill swept over me. I remembered the stories I had read as a child, myths of ancient rituals and vengeful spirits. This was no ordinary spot. Whatever had been here was not benign. Before I could process it all, a sharp crack split the night, a branch snapping behind me. I turned slowly, prepared to confront whatever was pursuing me. My heart nearly stopped when I saw a figure emerge from the shadows, an unmistakable outline, familiar yet distorted. Why did you come back? It whispered, my name hanging in the air like a blade. That S. When I realized I recognized the figure. I stumbled back, the panic rising within me. The forest had given me no choice, and now I was trapped in a dance of fate. I had to know who or what it truly was. I could barely catch my breath as I faced the distorted figure. Its eyes gleamed with an eerie familiarity, a twisted version of someone I once knew. "Why did you come back?" it repeated, the question slicing through the night air. I tried to answer, but my voice caught in my throat. The clearing felt like a cage, and I was the prey. "Who are you?" I managed to choke out, the words barely scraping past my lips. It took a step closer, and I could see the details more clearly now: twisted features, worn clothing that looked like it belonged to another time. Panic clawed at my chest. This wasn't just fear, it was terror. "I am you," it whispered, a grin stretching across its shadowy face. "Or perhaps what you fear you might become." The air went cold. I felt the dread coiling around me like a serpent. "You were warned to stay away, yet here you are." My instincts screamed at me to run. I turned, glancing wildly around the clearing for an escape route, but the trees felt like a wall now, pressing in on me. The laughter returned, echoing all around, morphing into a cacophony that made my mind race. Was I losing it? Was this some sort of twisted game? I took a step back, then another, my heart pounding harder. "I didn't mean to come here," I stammered. "I was lost, please, just let me go." "Come play," it said, its voice a soft, cruel sing-song as it reached out. I could see now that its arms stretched impossibly long, fingers curling like tendrils of smoke. The whispers intensified, layering over one another like a terrible symphony. Suddenly, the ground beneath me shifted again as if the earth itself was waking up. I glanced down and saw the disturbance around the stones. They looked older now, pulsing with a dull light as if the symbols were trying to communicate. A nauseating realization washed over me. This was no ordinary sight, it felt alive, aware of what was happening. What did you do?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, the fear spilling into my tone. The figure laughed, but it was just a hollow sound, devoid of joy. "Nothing that wasn't already done. It's your turn to play. You can't run from yourself." With that, it lunged at me. I instinctively raised my hands, desperate to shield myself, and felt an icy wind sweep through the clearing. The trees shook, the leaves rustling like 1,000 whispers, as if the forest itself was laughing along. In that moment, I lost all control. I turned and dashed towards the edge of the clearing. As I stumbled back into the shadows, the laughter faded, leaving an unsettling stillness in its place. I didn't look back. I sprinted deeper into the trees, limbs grabbing at me as if trying to hold me back. The whispers faded just slightly, but I knew they hadn't disappeared completely. That I surged forward until I collided with something solid. A tree? No. A figure. The outline shifted, and before I could react, hands grasped my shoulders. "Where do you think you're going?" A familiar voice echoed through the dark, and I froze. I couldn't be. I had to squeeze my eyes shut, fighting against the weight of reality crashing down. But there was no escaping it now. I opened my eyes and faced another version of myself, a reflection of everything I feared. And suddenly, it all became terrifyingly clear. I stood there, shock coursing through me. The other version of myself wore a look of anguish, eyes wide with a mix of hatred and pity. "You shouldn't have come back," it said, voice trembling as it echoed my own. That I wanted to scream, to run, but fear rooted me in place. "This isn't real. You're not real." My voice cracked as I tried to convince myself. It smiled faintly, but there was no warmth to that expression, only the hollow certainty of a nightmare. "Oh, but I am," it replied, stepping closer. "I am every choice you wish you hadn't made, every moment you want to forget." The shadows grew thicker around us as though the darkness wanted to swallow the scene whole. "What do you want from me?" I gasped. "Clarity," it said simply, a word that felt like an accusation. "You keep running from your past, hiding in the tangle of these woods. But those who hide never escape." With every word, I felt the weight of my secrets heavier than ever. I had thought by coming back, I could bury them, but they seemed to rise like the mist around us, thick and oppressive. I took a step back, searching desperately for an escape, and then I saw it out of the corner of my eye. Movement. Something darker than the night slithered between the trees, its form elusive. I blinked, and it was gone, but the dread it left behind clung to me. "Did you see that?" I said, panic creeping into my voice. "Focus on me," my doppelganger urged, shaking its head. "Don't let it distract you. This is the door you need to open." I swallowed hard. "What do you mean?" Its eyes narrowed as if peering into my very soul. "You know what you have to do. Embrace it. Understand it. Then maybe you can leave this place." The shadows around me thickened again, and I could hear whispers, a chorus of voices, each one echoing my own fears and regrets. I was losing my grip on reality, and the encroaching figure in the dark loomed larger in my mind. I can't." The figure before me stepped closer, its features softening, and for a moment, it felt like approaching an actual reflection. "You can. You must. Only then can you break free." Suddenly, the world around us shifted, the ground trembled, and I lost my footing, tumbling backward. My heart raced as I landed hard against the damp earth, dirt clinging to my fingers. I looked up to see the other me extending its hand. Shadows danced behind it, flickering like flames, and I hesitated, and that s when I heard it again, the rustling, the creeping thing. Every instinct told me to run, yet that part of me whispered to stay and confront the truth. As the doppelganger remained poised, waiting, I realized something crucial. The darkness wasn't just outside, it was within me, too. Before I could act, the outline of the figure surged from the trees, a mass of shadows, and lunged toward us. Panic exploded in my chest, and I felt frozen by fear. In that moment of uncertainty, the two of us, me and my mirror image, were bound together, standing on the brink of something I didn't quite understand but knew I had to face. Then everything went dark. I gasped as my surroundings shifted, a rush of cold air sweeping over me. The darkness didn't fade, it twisted, pulling at the edges of my mind. I blinked, trying to regain my bearings, but found myself standing in a clearing bathed in an eerie silver light. The woods were gone, replaced by tall trees with gnarled branches. My heart raced, unsure where I was or how I had gotten here. The shadows from before still felt close, lingering at the edges of my vision, but they seemed to fade in the moonlight. "Where are we?" I called out, my voice trembling. I felt a chill seep into my bones, not just from the temperature, but from an unsettling sense of familiarity. The other version of me stood beside me, its features more defined now, the anguish in its eyes replaced by a stern resolve. "This is where it started," it said softly, gesturing toward the horizon. "You have to face it." "What?" I turned, scanning the area. Everything felt wrong, like a warped reflection of my memories. The clearing looked similar to the place I had visited as a kid, a sanctuary I thought I had long forgotten. "You mean this clearing?" "No, not just this place," it replied, stepping forward. "The truth behind it. Your past." Suddenly, the shadows flared to life, darting around the edges of the trees as if they had a mind of their own. I stumbled back, feeling dizzy with spiraling dread. There was something hidden in the darkness. I could feel it watching. "Whatever you're hiding from, it's here," my doppelganger urged. "You can't just run away anymore." A heavy weight settled in my stomach as memories rushed in a childhood fear, the shadowy figure I had seen in the woods during my teenage years, the whispers of the townsfolk that had always unsettled me. "No. I don't want to remember." Panic surged within me, sending a wave of adrenaline through my veins. "It's the only way you can truly escape." It stepped closer, and its hand reached out toward mine. "You must trust me." I looked at that hand, and for the first time, I saw it wasn't just a doppelganger, it was me. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, bridging the space between us. Our fingers touched, and at the moment of contact, visions flooded my mind, the drowning weight of a secret, the guilt of a forgotten face, a desperate scream from a night long buried. I felt the shadows swirl around us like a tempest, rising up and coiling against my skin, then the whispers became clearer, forming sentences a name. "Find her," they urged, echoing in my ears. "The truth will set you free." Before I could process what was happening, the shadows twisted violently, forcing me to release my grip on my doppelganger's hand. I screamed as the world lurched again, flinging me backward into an abyss of darkness. As the void threatened to consume me, one thought pierced through the chaos: I couldn't turn back now. I had to uncover the truth. Then, in that profound silence, I heard the rustle of leaves nearby. Another presence lingered beyond the veil of night. I wasn't alone. I squinted into the shadows, searching for the source of the rustling. My heart pounded in my chest, and the chill in the air clung to my skin. I felt like a trapped animal, instinct screaming at me to flee. But I couldn't. Not now. "Who's there?" I managed to call out, my voice shaky. There was no answer, just the continued whisper of leaves brushing against one another. I took a tentative step forward, drawn by an unseen force. With each cautious movement, the shadows shifted, creating a swirling dance that made me dizzy. From behind a thick tree trunk, a figure emerged. My breath caught in my throat. It was a woman. Her hair was wild, cascading down her shoulders like dark tendrils, and her eyes glinted with an unsettling intensity. I wanted to run, but I was also desperate for answers. "Do you seek the truth?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper, like wind rustling through the branches. There was something familiar about her, but I couldn't pinpoint it. What do you know?" I hesitated, unsure if I should trust her. "After everything, could I afford to?" "Everything," she replied softly, stepping closer. "You've been running long enough. The past waits for you." I felt my pulse quicken again at her words. "You know what happened back then?" Her lips curved into a haunting smile that sent a wave of unease through me. "You've forgotten, but it's still there, waiting in the shadows." With that, she gestured toward the trees that loomed around us. "You must remember." The shadows seemed to stretch and reach for me, a reminder of the dark times, the fear I worked so hard to bury. "But why you?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. "Who are you?" She hesitated, as if weighing her response. "I am the one who witnessed it all. The one you lost." My heart dropped. "What do you mean?" "It wasn't just a shadow that night. It was your choice." Suddenly, images flooded my mind again, glimpses of that fateful night. I saw a young girl's face, a flash of panic, followed by an echo of screams. I pressed my hands to my head, trying to push the memories back, but they spilled forth like a broken dam. "Stop!" I shouted, fear rolling off me in waves. The woman stepped back, fading into the shadows, but her presence lingered, a haunting echo. "You have to find her. You can't run from it anymore." Before I could respond, the clearing around me began to shift. The silver light dimmed, and the shadows grew thicker. I felt myself being pulled again, but this time the sensation was different. It wasn't just fear, it was determination mixing with dread. Then everything went dark. I gasped, the weight of the absence pressing down hard. When the darkness lifted, I found myself standing on the edge of another familiar scene, a childhood home, its paint peeling, the door slightly ajar. I couldn't breathe. I had to face it. As I stepped forward, the door creaked open wider, revealing a shard of light spilling into the night. I took a deep breath and walked inside. The past was waiting. The air was heavy with dust and memories as I stepped into the house. The scent of decay filled my nostrils, a pungence that twisted my stomach. I looked around, expecting to see the familiar decor from my childhood, but everything was cloaked in shadows. The once vibrant wallpaper was now faded and peeling, and the floorboards creaked under my weight that I hesitated, my heart racing. This was the place I had tried to forget. The living room was cluttered with old furniture covered in white sheets, like ghosts waiting to be unveiled. I felt as though I was walking into a time capsule, each room layered with the feelings I had buried deep. As I wandered through the hall, I heard a faint sound, a soft whimpering. It tugged at my heart. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely more than a whisper. The echoes of my own words frightened me. Silence returned, thick and suffocating. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught a movement. I turned quickly, but nothing was there. Just my imagination, or so I hoped. I pressed on, drawn deeper into the hallway toward a door at the end. It was slightly ajar, and the darkness beyond beckoned me. I pushed the door open, and a chill ran down my spine. Inside was a small bedroom, untouched by time. On the bed lay an old teddy bear, its eyes glistening like black pits. I approached it cautiously, each step feeling heavier than the last. That's when I saw it, a photo on the nightstand. It was worn but still recognizable. My sister and I, grinning as we posed with our arms around each other. But there was something off about it. In the background loomed a shadowy figure, just barely noticeable, creeping up behind us. "What?" I breathed, suddenly feeling dizzy. I looked closer, trying to discern the outline of that figure. Just then, a louder whimper came from the corner of the room. I whipped around, and my stomach dropped. A girl, no older than 8, stood trembling in the dark. Her hair hung limply around her face, her eyes wide with fear. "Help me," she whispered, her voice a mere breath against the silence. "Who are you?" I asked, half expecting her to fade into the shadows like the woman before. "I'm lost," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You need to remember." My heart raced as realization dawned. She looked like the girl from my memories, the one I had tried to forget. "I don't understand," I stammered. "What happened?" Before she could respond, the ground shook beneath me. The walls trembled, and I felt a surge of energy pulling me back. "No! Don't go!" I shouted, reaching out for her. But then everything went black again. When I opened my eyes, I was back outside, the familiar woods surrounding me once more. My heart raced as confusion flooded my mind. The girl had vanished, but I could still feel her presence, her plea echoing in my ears. The woman in the shadows, my sister's ghost, and now this girl. What was I supposed to do with their voices? I looked toward the trees, realizing I couldn't run anymore. "I will find you," I promised, my voice stronger now, filled with a grim resolution. But as I turned to leave, a figure stepped out from the woods. It was the woman again, her eyes sharp and knowing. "You're so close," she said. "But the truth is darker than you think." With that, her form melted into the shadows once more, leaving me staring into the darkness where I had expected answers. The moon hung high as I found myself back at the cabin, the place that had drawn me in, only to turn my life upside down. I was exhausted, both physically and mentally, racing with fear and confusion. I had chased shadows, faced ghosts, and unearthed memories long buried, but I still felt like a traveler lost in a maze with no exit in sight. The door creaked open under my trembling hand, and as I stepped inside, the familiar lines of the cabin felt more like prison bars than a sanctuary. I locked the door behind me and leaned against it, drawing in ragged breaths. I was safe, at least for now. But the whispers didn't relent. They flitted through my mind, threading jumbled thoughts of my sister, the girl, and the distorted reflection that had laid bare my deepest fears. That I sank into the old chair in the corner, staring at the fading daylight filtering in through the windows. Had I really experienced all of that? The memories swirled like autumn leaves in my mind, and I fought to piece together the puzzle they formed. How many of those stories I'd heard were actually bound to me? Suddenly, the silence was broken by a soft thump outside, followed by the unmistakable sound of movement. My heart raced and I sat up straighter, on guard. The cabin felt small, suffocating, and the fears I had pushed back clawed at me again. Was it just my mind playing tricks, or was something out there, watching, waiting? With trembling hands, I grabbed my flashlight. I stepped cautiously outside, illuminating the path where I had faced the dark figure and heard the whispers. The woods were alive, branches rustling like secrets shared among companions. As I turned toward the familiar path I had run from, it seemed less daunting, deceptively welcoming. With each step I took further into the trees, memories raced back: my sister's laughter, a promise long forgotten, an innocence shattered. I followed the trail with a drive I didn't fully understand. I had to confront whatever lurked in those woods. Whatever it was intertwined with me, with my past, with my family, the girl, the figure. I would no longer let fear anchor me. The deeper I went, the heavier the air became, thick with silence. I reached the clearing, and everything felt different, electric. The wild energy I had sensed before pulsed beneath the surface. The stones remained, along with the old symbols, though they now felt less threatening, almost reassuring in their silence. Suddenly, the air shifted, and from the shadows emerged a figure. My heart pounded as it came closer, taking the same shape as before. The familiarity sent chills down my spine. "You've come back." It echoed my exact tone, twisting the words like a knife. I gathered all the courage I had left. "I know what you are," I declared. "You're a part of me, a memory I want to forget. But I will not run anymore." The figure smiled, a semblance of recognition in its darkened features. "And yet, here you are, seeking answers." Before I could respond, the rustling intensified, swirling sounds seemingly rising from the very ground. The whispers erupted into a chaotic symphony, urging me to recall the past, the truth hidden behind the shadows. I stood my ground, facing that unrelenting presence that defined so many of my fears. "I know I can't escape this," I challenged the figure. "I have to confront what I've buried. I need to find her." "Very well," the figure said, extending its hand. "Let us find her together." The shadows recoiled as if sensing my resolve, and all at once, visions flooded me: moments spent with my sister, laughter, tears, the night when everything had changed. I felt their weight, the burden of silent regrets clawing back at my mind, pulling me into the depths of the lost. Then, just as the memories intensified, a reality shift occurred. I gasped, and the woods faded, transforming into another place entirely. The soundproof walls of my childhood home returned, much like before but more vivid. Colors were sharper, and smells serrated, unraveling the layers of fading time. A soft whimper reached out from the hallway, the call of a forgotten child. That I turned and saw her again, the small girl with wild hair and tear-stained cheeks. "Help me," she implored, innocence tightening her features. But this time, I didn't feel paralyzed. "I will help you," I promised, stepping forward. Anger, sadness, and joy flooded through me, everything I had carried for so long, the weight of a secret heavy in my heart. As I reached for her, the familiar presence of the figure enveloped me once more. "You are not just here to search. You must confront the memory," it urged, voice now softer, laced with understanding. "The darkness is a part of the light." In that instant, time shattered like glass around me. Visions of my sister rushed through: the last night we spent together, laughter echoing, mixed with a swirling storm. My heart began to ache as the truth, once hidden, washed over me. I felt connections binding past to present, revealing layers of loss and longing. With tears streaming down my face, I stepped closer to the girl, mine now reflecting in her wide eyes. "I can't change what happened, but I can remember. I can finally unearth the truth." There was a moment of stillness as the shadows closed in again around us, deciding whether to consume us or set us free. But I was ready, a sense of acceptance washing over me. Just as realization settled, the dark figure took a definitive step back, fading into the night. "We'll find our way," I whispered to the girl, and slowly, with her hand in mine, we ventured deeper, shadows shifting behind as they relinquished their hold. The midnight air wrapped around us, familiar and alive. Whatever awaited us, I knew it wouldn't define me anymore. The journey would continue, but I would not be alone. As I ventured forward into the unknown, I became the keeper of memories, the searcher of truths. With every brush of leaves, every flicker of light, I realized they held both pain and promise, and it was my choice to embrace them. I stepped into the darkness with newfound strength, knowing this was just the beginning.